you're not saying, I assume, that the airlines and the military may decide they don't need oil shale.
What I'm saying is that the airline industry and the military is not waiting around for oil shale to be developed. If you look at what a lot of these companies are saying, they're generations out from making a decision in certain cases of whether or not they'd actually be able to develop oil shale. What they are focused on is what can they develop starting today or starting a few years ago to meet their current and projected demands. And what we're seeing is that their focus, their attention, their investments is on a whole different set of fuel sources.
So that must make an organization like Western Resource Advocates happy.
Well, it certainly gives us promise that as you look at technology development over the last 100 years that companies have been trying to develop oil shale, that they actually are looking towards the next generation as opposed to just looking in their rearview mirror and trying to develop something that from an environmental perspective but also from an economic perspective hasn't proven its worth.
Jason, can you hit me with a couple of numbers in terms of what the economic impact could be?
I think, no, I can't hit you with numbers, but what I can say is we all have been witnessing some of these booms, the gas boom on the western slope, the gas and oil boom up in North Dakota or out in Pennsylvania. If oil shale gets to the 1 million barrel per day target that a lot of these producers talk about by 2020 or 2025, I think we're probably looking at something comparable or more so than the kind of economic activity that's been generated by some of these current booms.
So it sounds like, in a way, it's kind of a technology race. Does something get developed first to make it commercially viable with oil shale, or do these other technologies for next generation fuels win out?
I think that's, there is a component of it being a technology race for sure. There's always a race when it comes to developing industries, and the first person to fill the need that the industry seeks to address has a great advantage. But it's not simply a technology race for the reasons that David's been talking about. When we start to talk about carbon, when we start to talk about greenhouse gases and energy use and water use, there are all these externalities that in the past would not have been part of this conversation. You say the word externality to someone who was trying to develop oil shale in the 1920s, and they would have said, "What the frack are you talking about?" But you say it today, and people realize that more goes into it than simply how can we get this energy. What comes with that energy, for better or for worse, and they understand that there are trade-offs when it comes to algae-based biofuels. I'm sure there are trade-offs. I don't know enough about it, but there certainly are with solar developments, wind developments, the tight gas, shale gas, and shale oil developments have a lot of trade-offs in terms of the hydraulic fracturing that's taking place, and oil shale would involve a certain number of trade-offs as well. The oil and gas the conventional, quote-unquote, oil and gas that we've built our society on over the course of the last century or so came with a lot of trade-offs that we're only now just starting to reckon with.
Certainly one question is, can they? But then there's the other question of should they? And that's really where the dialogue happens, is on those public policy questions of how you balance competing needs, competing interests, competing opportunities. And that's why much of the discussion today is not so much on the technology, but the public policy impacts and the public policy discussions that surround the technology questions.
The industry is certainly hostile, is that the right word, to environmental groups who are raising this question?
I wouldn't say that. I think actually I appreciate what Jason said in terms of that industry does recognize that the discussion over oil shale takes place in a much broader context than it did back in the 1980s. And I think industry does recognize that we have to look at the types of issues that Western Resource Advocates and its partner organizations are raising. Because they're not really questions fundamentally about our organization, they're fundamental questions about the economics of the state, the social networks of the state, and those are triggered by, you know, water, air quality, any number of things. And industry, I do honestly believe understands that and is trying to address those both as a matter of technology and also as a matter of public discourse. It doesn't mean we agree, but I think there is an opportunity for dialogue there.
Yeah, that's right. I think you know, the fact that we're talking about these things today signifies that, much to our great benefit, people like David and the groups that he worked with, his friends, their predecessors, have to a large degree already won a big portion of this battle, because we are concerned about air quality and we're doing our best to figure out how to determine what good air quality is. We're concerned about water quality. We're concerned about the effect that development has on ecosystems. And those are things that weren't part of the discussion before.